We don't talk enough about this. The brain's ability to adapt and create new neural pathways via isometric training. Specifically, in this case, we're talking about isochain training. What is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to modify, change, and adapt both structure and function throughout life and in response to experience. Those last four words, in response to experience. Let's dive into that a little bit. When we were going hard on the isochain, we are creating new neural pathways. We've talked about that in many videos in our isometric science playlist, which you can find right here. Remember, we talked about the muscles being binary. They only know on or off. So if we are training our body to contract, and right now we're just talking about strength, to contract at 100%, what's going to happen in the weight room? Well, then they are going to contract at 100%. We have now taught them to go all in. We are accessing the highest amount of muscle fiber recruitment when going into the strength lift for 6 seconds. We are at the highest level of the force velocity curve, and over time, what we don't really see, but what's happening under the hood, is that we are building new neural pathways. Our body is now being conditioned to develop a lot of explosive power, a lot of strength, to go from 0 to 100 and really turn up the heat when it's time to exert force against an object. What does that mean for us? In my opinion, what better way to explain than with action? When we look at this clip of Bruce Lee going from a complete standstill to the opponent's face in a fraction of a second, if we slow down the clip, and again, we know what this type of training does. It's very good at developing quickness, the body's ability to contract at 100%. Then over the course of time, this is creating such immense nerve synapse speed that you end up with things like this. I've used the paperclip analogy before. Now, the Isochain chain is a very durable chain, rated up to 1,000 pounds in force. It's totally not going to break. Imagine for a second, we're on the Isochain and we're performing a deadlift exercise. We all have seen the deadlift in action on the Isochain on the channel. Now, what would happen if you're going all in for, say, I don't care who you are and I don't care what your strength level is. Let's just say that your hands slipped as you're performing a deadlift. Right? You're gonna fly up. Now you're not going to, your feet are not going to leave the base plate. There's still physics involved, but there's going to be a pretty violent change in the body's position. Well, guys, that's exactly what's happening when we train this way. Our brains have now changed the way that we function. Take in what I just said there. If we break down the word neuroplasticity, the word neuro is referring to our neurons. They are the building blocks of our brain and our nervous system. We have over 100 billion neurons in the body. Our brain is very powerful. It possesses an insane ability to reorganize old neural pathways, create new pathways, and even in some cases, create new neurons. There's actually two main types of functional plasticity. It's the brain's ability to move functions from a damaged area of the brain to other undamaged areas. And then there's structural plasticity. It's the brain's ability to actually change its structure as a result of learning. This occurs as a result of learning, experience, and even memory formation, or in unfortunate circumstances, the result of brain damage. However, it's not just mental. We know the term mind-muscle connection. And personally, I believe that the Isochain is one of the best ways to really develop a strong mind-muscle connection, because you feel these muscle groups very directly with the Isochain when you're performing them correctly and pouring in 100% of your body's total force into that specific muscle group. That's very physical. So now our brain is starting to figure out how that maximal contraction relates to those high forces. Practicing on the Isochain, it doesn't really take long for our mind and our muscle connection to really interlink, no pun intended, and start to pick up on how much force is required to really hit these higher numbers. Once you hit load mode, our body starts adapting really quickly. And it's really simple. It's like, oh, I must exert more force. Okay, so then this level of force is required to hit that beep. Our brains are now being reconditioned. We have just built a new neural pathway that, quite frankly, will serve us for many, many years to come, because this is one of the ultimate displays of functional strength. But what are your thoughts? I want you to go ahead and comment down below, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.